Hello and welcome to Tuesday Devotional. I was trying to do this from my computer like I always do, and it would not start. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to make sure that I can start it here, and then we'll see what happens. So if you're here, let me know. You can comment and let me know that it's actually working. In the meantime, I'm going to try to restart my computer. At least a few of you out there. That's great. Lovely to see you. Hello, Susan. It was great to hear you. There you go. That's what I was going to read. Hello to Mom and Dad. Technology. Oh, I know, it's the worst. It makes everything possible, but oh, it's the worst, right? Sorry for the unease with the phone because I'm holding it. So sorry if it makes you dizzy. All kinds of crazy things are happening on my phone now. It's saying, tap here to invite people to come to your video. I can't figure all that out. I'm just here. So thanks for joining me, even after a break here for the Easter holiday. And of course, we're still in the Easter season, but thanks for coming back and being here. We're kind of realizing now that we're in April, in the middle of April. So we've got maybe like 6 weeks left of this program year. And so we're thinking about what things might look like down the line over the summer and stuff and into the fall. And we're in this kind of strange thing where we oh, hi Janice. Hello, it's nice to see you. Casserole girl. I do appreciate your fine cooking. Yes. But yeah, we've been talking about what this online ministry stuff looks like in the future. So if you have any ideas about that, you can let me know. You can email me or message or whatever. Be interested to know, like, if these sort of formats are helpful for you, or whether you prefer more of an interactive thing or like a real brief thing that's more structured. Like I just come on and do like a 3-minute video because, you know, there's a certain amount of viewership drops off after a certain amount of time. And so most people don't watch a video that's more than like a minute long. But I do know that some people prefer more of the kind of content and focus. So I'm curious what you're interested in and what kind of online content you want going forward. So if you have ideas about that or things you'd like to have happen, you can let me know. We're thinking about over the summertime, you know, when people are more scattered, but then also, you know, just in general, you know, as we continue to have our online hybrid kind of way of doing ministry, kind of what kind of content you prefer from us. So if you have ideas about that, I'm happy to hear them. Would love to get that. All right, we have like 9 viewers. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you're all here. As I explained at the beginning, the reason that it's strange today with the camera angle is because my computer, I think the bishop is watching. I can see his little icon pop up, and my computer decided that it couldn't find the internet, which we know tends to happen on Thursdays, but for some reason it happened on a Tuesday. So I'm going to use my phone, which is fine. Online has been great. And I know, Janice, now we get to like connect with you and, you know, people who otherwise would never have the option to be around. So that's wonderful. Susan says, I really like these. I think it's great to be able to access no matter where we are. Yeah, that is true. It's really nice. And if people know that it's coming, then the longer format isn't a problem. You know, you just watch it when you know you have 15 minutes to spare. And sometimes I think for people, it's, you know, if they're flipping by and it's alive and they know they don't have time to watch it, the question is, do they go back and see it later and all that stuff? So we just continue to, you know, people use things like metrics and data-driven analysis and all this, and we have to decide whether we're ready for all of that. Hi, Laura. Glad you're here too. Well, we are, well, 360. Yeah, no one drives that if they don't have to. So we're happy to connect with you in any way we can. Exactly. Okay, so it's this time after Easter, which I always find a little interesting and challenging. Last year, our theme that we chose, because we were in the middle of the beginning, right? We've talked about the beginning of the end of the beginning of the pandemic. We were right in the beginning still of all of this stuff. We may not have known it was that. But we had the theme of grief and gratitude, and we talked about putting those two things real close together and kind of living in that post-Easter time, but still being really aware that things were not the way they should be, right? Things were still very, very wrong and messed up. This year, as I've been thinking about this season after Easter and what's it all about, we've been thinking about, as the weather gets better and being able to be outside, what are potential ways that we can see each other. We can start to have experiences together again. Everybody who came to in-person worship over Easter was really good about all of our protocols, and we really, really appreciate that. But there's this thing about what's it mean to live as a person of faith right now? What is that all about? And I was doing some reflecting on that and thinking about that this last week leading up to now. And I saw a quote that I was reminded of that I just love and had kind of forgotten about. And sometimes you think, and you get to my stage and you're creating content all the time, that you're like, I've told them everything that I've got nothing left. If I start to retell all my stories, they're all going to know. They have heard everything. But I don't know that I've necessarily shared this one with you before. So I'm going to share some words from Bonhoeffer. This is, so it's April 13th. April 9th, the end of last week, is our day that we remember Bonhoeffer as a martyr, that he died at the end of World War II, was executed for the plot to assassinate Hitler, which was unsuccessful. And Bonhoeffer wrote a lot of things to a lot of family and friends while he was in prison and other times. And so this comes from one of the letters that he wrote to his best friend, Eberhard Bethke. And he's talking about what it means to be a human and a Christian and what it means to have faith. And I think it speaks to us in this time after Easter, but I think it also speaks to us in a time of trying to re-enter the world or reconnect with people as the pandemic enters into a new phase. I don't know that we're yet to be able to say that it's like over, but it definitely feels like we're in a different phase now. That people are able to do things that they couldn't before because of vaccinations. And although certain parts of the country, of course, are experiencing big spikes and lots of more cases and hospitalizations and deaths, down here it feels a little different. So we're in a new phase, and what phase is that, and what's it going to be like? So I heard in Bonhoeffer's words a kind of a speaking to that of where we are and who we are. So I wanted to share that with you today. It is only by living completely in this world that one learns to believe. One must abandon every attempt to make something of oneself, whether it be a saint, a converted sinner, a churchman, a righteous man, an unrighteous one, a sick man, or a healthy one. This is what I mean by worldliness, taking life in one's stride, with all its duties and problems, its successes and failures, its experiences and helplessness. In doing so, we throw ourselves completely into the arms of God, taking seriously not our own sufferings, but those of God in the world, watching with Christ in Gethsemane. That, I think, is faith. That is metanoia, and that is how one becomes a human and a Christian. When he says at the end, I think this is faith, that is metanoia. Metanoia is the Greek word for repentance, for turning one's life around in a different direction. So he says that is faith. That is repentance, metanoia, reorientation. And that is how one becomes a human and a Christian. In a lot of ways, I think we are learning anew now what it means to be a human, what it means to be a Christian, a person of faith. And if we're honest, I think we relearn this many times in our lives, that major things happen to us that change who we are fundamentally. And then we have to relearn what it means to be us. We have to relearn what it means to be a person of faith. That when these huge things happen in life, and maybe there are things like we thought we knew who we were professionally, and then that completely changed. Maybe we became parents, or maybe we experienced the death of a child. Maybe our relationships came together, or maybe they fell apart. Obviously, illness and death. Maybe we used to think of ourselves as a healthy person, and now we can't think of ourselves as a healthy person anymore. This happens a lot to us, and we have to refigure out what it means to be human and what it means to be a person of faith. In our case, that means a Christian. And I really like this opening line that he says, that how we do that is by living completely in this world, that we immerse ourselves in the successes and the failures and the problems and the challenges and the opportunities. And that is, what does that mean in an age where we are still trying to keep our distance, in an age when we've learned so much about the dangers of being together? What does it mean to fully immerse ourselves and to live completely in this world? I think we've learned a lot about that in the last year. We've had to redefine what it means to be in relationship with people. We've had to redefine what it means to take care of people. Whereas before, taking care meant closeness, now sometimes it means distance. And when we are honest about that, and when we're able to take stock of all that we've learned and how we've changed, then I think that draws us closer to God. I think that's what he's trying to say. Sometimes people of faith err on the side of, oh, the world is so messed up. There's nothing that can be done. We need to just bury our head in the sand, or, only deal with people that we know, or we need to protect ourselves from things. And that is a temptation I think we all feel, because it seems safer to us. And it seems like I could believe in God if I didn't have to deal with people. Not that any person has ever thought that, or not that any pastor has ever thought that. But I think there's the temptation there to say that if we could pull back from the world and all of its suffering, we could draw closer to God. And of course, there's always a tradition in Christianity that talks about people who are on their own, who are living in convents or who are separated from humanity, that there is a certain silence that happens that is nice, right? And allows some space for talking to God. But overall, most of us aren't going to be there. We're not going to live that life separated from humanity. We're going to be in the thick of it the whole time. And Bonhoeffer, rather than bemoaning that or saying that that's too bad, says that that is the way that we actually embrace our faith, that that's the way we draw closer to God. We actually turn to love each other, and we live fully in this world. As he says, taking life in one's stride, that's what he means by worldliness, all our experiences and our helplessness. And it's not as though Bonhoeffer says it's going to make us feel better. There's a reason we want to pull back from people or pull back from humanity or creation, because it's challenging and it's painful. And the minute that we want to take a break from watching the news about the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis, the next news that we see is yet another Black person that's been killed by law enforcement. So the same conversation keeps going. And that's just one example. There are many examples of suffering, of course, that we think we're going to take a break from one example of suffering, and then the next one shows up. It makes sense to us why we might want to disengage from all of that. But Bonhoeffer says that when we do that, where we end up is falling on the grace of God. In the translation that I have from the German, it says we throw ourselves completely into the arms of God. That's where we end up when we engage the suffering of the world. So it's not as though Bonhoeffer is saying that, just engage with the world, you'll feel better. No, that being honest about that's going to be really hard and painful. And having to keep talking about the same stuff over and over again is challenging, and it is painful. But it drives us back and forward, maybe, into the arms of God. And from there, then we have room for God to speak to us, to hold us up, and to give us a sense of faith and of peace. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you today is what I hear Bonhoeffer encouraging each of us to do is to not give up on the world, not give up on engaging the suffering of our neighbors, not to give up even though it's very extremely painful. Because when we feel like we have the option to sort of check out of all of that stuff, that just shows that it's kind of not our problem. And that's not the way of the faith of a neighbor to be, right? That when we have the opportunity or the privilege to sort of say, I don't have to worry about that today, that's like a point of privilege that we have. And so instead, when we can say, I have the ability and I have the obligation to engage with that because my neighbor is suffering, that's the choice of a person of faith. So don't give up on the world. Instead, lean toward the suffering of others, because it will drive us into the arms of God. And that will create faith in us, because we will be reminded of how much we need God. And we'll be reminded about how much we need this message of Easter. It is only by living completely in this world that one learns to believe. And that is metanoia, reorientation and repentance. And it's how one becomes a human and a Christian. God continues to work on us. God continues to change us, to push us, but also just to care for us and to hold us. And so as you move through your week, whatever it is that you're facing, whatever thing you would rather not have to deal with, the relationships that are challenging for you, know that when you do that and when you feel helpless and you engage with that God is right there, that you are being driven into the arms of God and that God will hold you. That's the good news about this idea of being driven into the arms of God is we're driven into the arms of a loving God, one that will hold you and sustain you and carry you through the stuff that we have to do next. Of course, Bonhoeffer's life ended in a way that he would never have preferred, but it ended in a way that was a witness. And so we carry on that legacy of a witness. That's what a martyr is, someone who gives testimony to God. So may your life be a witness to the love of God today. May you find a way to show God's love to your neighbors who are different from you. May God continue to strengthen you and remind you of how important you are to God. And may you have the courage that you need to do what needs to be done today. Peace be with all of you. Thank you for joining me today. Of course, we'll do Faith 5 tomorrow at 6 o'clock on Facebook here and on YouTube. You can join us for that. And then, of course, we'll have worship again this weekend. So peace be with you, and may these words of Bonhoeffer strengthen you. Susan says, I struggle with a desire not to deal with the trouble in the world. Yeah, we all do. It's exhausting. It's really tiring, and it's not easy at all. So may Christ give you the strength. Oh, and one final reminder. All of this strength that we get, it's not up to us. It's not like you get to dig deep. It's not like exercise culture. It's the fact that faith itself is a gift from God. Courage is a gift from God. All of the gifts you have are gifts from God. And so when we drive ourselves into the arms of God, it's God who gives us that energy and that inspiration to keep going. So, all right, we'll talk to you again later. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.